So in this video, I'm going to talk about how you can impress the interviewer if you've got a Big Four accounting firm interview coming up. I did 3 different interviews when I was going through the selection process when I wanted to join on the graduate program back in 2015. And by watching this video, you'll get some good ideas about what you need to cover and what you need to talk about during your interview so that you can stand out from the crowd. So when I did my application, there were 3 different interviews, as I said, which I did. And the first one was a phone interview, which I did with someone from the HR team. The second interview was with the senior manager in the team that I was applying for. And the final interview that I did was with the partner at the assessment center. Naturally, there'll be some questions which are covered in all the 3 different interviews. For example, why you chose that particular firm and why you chose that particular job to go for, that particular team. But there are also distinct questions which will be asked in these 3 different interviews. So you want to make sure that you're prepared for those questions and that you answer them effectively. So as I said, the first interview that I did was with someone in HR. And what was important in this interview was making sure that I was prepared with situational examples. So the questions during this interview were around, have you ever experienced a situation when something happened and how did you react? And so by preparing examples beforehand, I was able to pull those out when required during the interview. And one important thing that I did was making sure that I had plenty of different examples to talk about. You want to try and avoid using the same example and trying to show that you've got different or apply different skill sets for the same specific example. Naturally, you can repeat an example 2 or maybe 3 times max, but ideally you want to be talking about different examples. Another thing that's important to remember is if you can, it'll be really impressive or it'll make you stand out if you can talk about examples from when you've got work experience, or whether that's through internships or work experience weeks, etc. And so if you can talk about those situations, that's really going to help you stand out, because naturally those are sort of positions of responsibility and it's a corporate environment in most cases. So being able to use those examples which are a bit more relatable when it comes to that job specifically, that's really going to help you strengthen your case when it comes to the interview. So if you have that opportunity, certainly use those and make sure that you cover them during the phone interview. Saying all that, if you haven't got the experience, naturally you can't talk about it. So don't be afraid to talk about different responsibilities you might have had at university, for example, being part of committee or working on different university assignments, sort of team assignments, etc. So make sure that you have sort of examples prepared where you've taken on responsibility or you had to deal with a particular situation, a difficult situation. And there are plenty of different resources on Google which will give you example questions, examples or situational questions that you can get examples prepared for, or situational examples prepared for. As I said, there's some basic questions which they'll naturally ask to make sure that you have a strong reason for applying to that particular job or particular team. So make sure that you've got concrete reasons why you've chosen that specific department at the Big Four, why you've chosen that particular team in that department as well. So make sure that you're comfortable with those answers, because naturally you will be repeating them in the next interviews as you progress through the application process. So some common questions are sort of why that team, why that department, as I said, why that particular firm, and what made you choose your university degree. So common sort of questions like that, talking through your previous experience, any work experience you might have had, what you learned through that. Those are questions that will come up through the different interviews that you'll go through. So make sure that you're well prepared and well rehearsed to answer those questions. So after the phone interview process, you move on to a sort of one-to-one interview with a manager or a senior manager in the team. And during this stage, it's really important that you start to think about how you can stand out from the crowd, from your competitors that are going up for the same role. Because naturally these managers and senior managers will be interviewing a few different candidates for that one position. And so you want to think about what makes you unique, what experience have you got that sort of stands you out from the crowd, and it might not just be sort of specific work experience, because well, naturally that will help, but what other responsibilities did you take up before? Was there something that you did which stands you out? For example, for me it was around doing investment research when I was back in school, thinking about how you value companies, etc. So think about things that you might have done. It might have been starting a very small business. Anything that sort of stands you out from just your average candidate. You really need to be emphasizing this during the interview. Make sure, as I said before, that you have prepared for your basic questions, but at this stage you really need to start thinking about how you're going to differentiate yourself. This is something that you'll speak about during the next stage of the process as well when you're speaking to the partner, so make sure that you take the opportunity to practice talking about how you stand out. So another thing that helped me stand out during this stage was the amount of research that I'd done about the firm and about that particular team. So make sure that you're using all the resources available online to study up on that team and on the different industry trends, for example, that's affecting that team. Read the FT, read the Economist, etc., so that you can talk about it during the interview. And also be specific about looking into what the team's been doing. And aside from just looking at press articles, another great resource is using LinkedIn, where you might already be connected with one or two different people from the team, and so you can see what they've been liking and what projects they might have posted about, for example, depending on which department they work in. And you can also follow the company's LinkedIn and see what they've been getting up to as well. So LinkedIn is a great resource that you can use nowadays, and back when I was going through the application process, it was still available, but definitely not a lot of people were using it at that point. So there's a lot of information out there, and make sure that you're well researched about the business and about that role. So it's something that really helped me stand out, and so I think it's certainly something that they'd be expecting if you are a serious candidate and are taking the application process seriously. You need to be able to talk about all these different items, trends, and what the team's been up to, etc. during your interview. And when I say that you might have connected with one or two different people from that team already, I'm referring to if you've already done networking drinks with them, networking coffee, for example. And so definitely make the most of that situation and ask them different questions about what the team has been getting up to and what kind of projects that they're working on. And try and make the most of that information and make sure that you use that again when it comes to your interview process as well. Another way to impress the interviewer at this stage is to ask really intelligent questions. And naturally they'd expect you to have questions at the end, and definitely make sure that you're asking these questions. But prepare some intelligent questions as well. And for me, intelligent questions are specific to that individual. There are general questions that you can ask them, such as what they enjoy the most about their job, but you can ask that question to anyone working in that building. So make sure that your questions are specific to a certain extent. So for example, if you're interviewing for a corporate finance role, ask them about the deals that they might be doing now, or what challenging deals that they've done previously, or do they come across any PE firms on a regular basis. So by having specific questions, naturally the interviewer will know that you've thought hard about what questions you want to be asking, and so that should leave a positive image in their mind. And going back to the first point I made about standing out from the crowd, naturally one way to do this is to talk about what training courses you might have done to get prepared for this role. And I've teamed up with Financial Edge, who provide these training courses or provide online training courses for individuals that are interested in joining investment banks. If you are interested in doing some free online training courses, have a look at the description below where I'll leave a link to the free training courses. And if you are interested in purchasing one of the paid courses, I've also got a 25% discount code that you can use. So the final interview stage is generally with a partner. And I remember I did my partner interview during the assessment center, or during an assessment center day. And so I was there for the whole day doing different numeracy tests, group exercises, a case study as well, and finally I ended the day with the partner interview. And I've covered the partner interview in a video already, talking about how you need to prepare, and I'll link it up here somewhere. But one thing to remember when doing the partner interview is that you need to be, again, prepared for the basic questions, because they will come up. Naturally, you'll have had a chance to practice them before, so make sure you are ready to answer those again at the partner interview stage as well. To make sure that the partner leaves with a positive impression, remember to show your personality as well during the partner interview. Naturally, you'll be slightly nervous during this process, but it's important that the partner feels connected to you and understands your personality. They're trying to understand whether you'll fit into their team, whether they can get along with you. You need to be calm, but you still need to show your personality. I think the right balance between calm and confidence is really important. And confidence is important naturally in most situations in life, but they're trying to assess whether you can be confident when a client sort of asks you questions directly when you're one-to-one in a meeting. So they need to be comfortable that you can answer questions from the clients and that you are ready to speak to clients. So being calm, being collected, but being sort of confident when you're answering questions is something that they'll be judging you on. And one way to get this confidence in that room is to make sure that you show your personality and don't be afraid to talk about your personal situations as well, such as what subject you did at uni and why you chose it, etc. They want to understand you as a person, and so don't be too robotic when it comes to the interview with the partner. Again, asking intelligent questions at the end of the interview is really important, so make sure you have some good questions prepared beforehand. You can potentially bring up questions about different macroeconomic trends that might be impacting the department or different regulations, etc. And you might just touch on one particular topic that the partner wants to speak about, and you could end up speaking about it for 10-15 minutes at the end. So make sure that you have these questions prepared beforehand. Again, the more specific the questions they are, the better it is. When it comes to leaving that room having given a positive impression, one thing you want to avoid is digging yourself a hole when it comes to bringing up something technical when you don't have a full understanding of that topic. Naturally, they won't expect you to have a full technical understanding about every single topic that is relevant for that department or for that role, but they will expect you to have some understanding. And if you bring up a technical topic and you start talking about it and go down the wrong lane, they might not be too impressed if you don't have the basic understanding. So before you bring up any technical topics, make sure that you are fully comfortable talking about that. And naturally, I'm not trying to discourage you in terms of talking about a particular technical topic, but make sure that you are intelligent about how you position yourself in relation to that topic. So certainly don't start to claim that you know it inside out if you're not too sure about it. Aside from all these things that I've mentioned in terms of how you can impress the interviewer, make sure you do the basic things right as well, such as turning up on time for the interview, dressing smart, saying thank you after you've done with the interview, if you've got their email address, dropping them a short note to thank them for their time. So it's important that you do these things as well, and despite them being basic, they are important and they could make a difference in terms of whether you get that role or not. So those are just some things that I think can stand you out from the crowd and impress the interviewer when you're going through the application process. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And if you want to hear more about my experience going through the graduate scheme at a Big Four accounting firm, click on the video on the screen right now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.